What's up, everyone? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and yes, Nintendo has done it. They have properly unveiled the Switch. Not the previous thing, the little teaser trailer we saw back in October, but they've actually properly lifted the lid on it with an actual real reveal, which is what we essentially should have had in the first place. But I'm just gonna ignore that part anyway, just so it doesn't really get too much into it. But I'm going to talk a lot about the presentation last night. I'm going to cover the majority of stuff that was in it, some more of which in detail than others, as well as give my opinion on certain little parts of it too, and why some of it's good, why some of it's bad, some of the stuff they didn't talk about, and some of the kind of trepidations that some people may have. So the first thing, the big thing, is Nintendo have properly announced the official release date of the Nintendo Switch. It's going to be released worldwide on March the 3rd, 2017. So if you live in Japan, March the 3rd. If you live in the US, March 3rd. If you live somewhere in the main countries of Europe, major European countries as they call it, you're going to be able to get your hands on a Switch also for that kind of on the same date. Now, they have said that the Switch is going to cost, drum roll, that was the worst drum roll ever, if the mic even picked it up. Anyway, yeah, so the Nintendo Switch, if you live in the US, is going to cost $299. It's going to cost a little bit more in the UK because of currency and, whatever imports and taxes and fees or whatever they want to call it. But yeah, it's going to cost £280, £279.99 in the UK. Europe is kind of mostly up in the air. They didn't give a suggested retail price for Europe. Usually it's kind of a very similar one to the US. It's almost a direct conversion usually. So far, I've been able to find a couple of places that have done it, and you're mostly looking around 320, €330. I know my Switch that's already pre-ordered is 200, or sorry, 200. I'm looking at the pounds thing here in front of me. The Switch I have pre-ordered is €330, so that's close enough to the retail price. I factored in a little bit, like when I saw it was going to be $299, I was just thinking, okay, GameStop here are pretty much a rip-off, so they're going to try add a little bit in on top of it. And lo and behold, it's €330, so you get the idea. Anyway, that's the main thing. Well, there's only one base pack announced as of it is at the moment. So you obviously get the Switch tablet console, you get the Switch dock, you get the two Joy-Cons, and you get the Joy-Con grip, which is the controller style grip that the two Joy-Cons actually slot into, so you can sit around and charge them or play with them or use them as a controller just when you're at home or wherever it is you go, because the Switch is the Switch. It also obviously comes with a HDMI cable, and here's a big one just for the sake of throwing it in there, because I know some people were a bit worried about it, myself included, as I pretty much made a joke once beforehand, but it was realistically an unexpected joke. But yeah, it also includes a power supply, which doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest. Now, one other thing I'll throw in on top of it as well, actually, I kind of forgot the Japanese price. 29,980 yen in Japan, so you get the idea. It's all close enough to the same ball game. One other big thing to announce with the Nintendo Switch is that region locking is finally gone. So there's no region lock on Nintendo Switch software. Now, that may or may not change, or not so much change. That may only apply to physically bought games, which is how I'm expecting it to go. So when you're looking at, say, the virtual consoles or the eShop games or eShop availability or whatever, I'm expecting that to be a little bit different because of publishing and licensing reasons. But because of actual physical Switch games, I'm expecting the region lock to apply to only. So because some games when you get them on a virtual console won't be available in some regions. Some will only be available like 6 months earlier or 2 months earlier until they get some sort of agreement worked out or whatever it is. Anyway, now another hardware related thing is obviously Nintendo confirmed USB Type C for charging, which is good basically, because especially because when you look at all the stuff Nintendo have been using for the last couple of, well, I won't say the last couple of years, even though it's basically what it is, but look at the Wii U gamepad, the Nintendo 2DS, the Nintendo 3DS, hell, even a DS. You get the idea. I've been using proprietary chargers for a while. I hate that companies use proprietary chargers. It's literally just so they can get more money for their chargers. It's really annoying. But yeah, that's kind of a moot point anyway. So Nintendo have given quotes on rough battery life support. Support? No, support is probably a bad word for. They've given rough estimates of battery life. There you go. So depending on the graphical intensity. There you go. I didn't get much sleep last night because I was up late watching the Switch thing, as you'd probably expect. So bear with me as my brain fails a few times during this. But yeah, they've quoted anywhere between 2.5 to 6 hours, depending on the game being played and the features used. So, if it's a more graphically intensive game, it's going to run the battery a bit lower. If you've got stuff like Wi-Fi on or you're using advanced features or whatever, you're going to get the idea. So it can be, screen brightness, things like that too. So it's going to be anywhere between 2.5 to 6 hours. It won't surprise me if the majority of games give on the lower side of that. So, I mean, I'd say the majority of games, you're probably realistically looking about 3 hours for battery life. Now, obviously, some games and features can be done to extend that, but realistically, I'm going in expecting a 3 hour battery life. Now, having said that, one thing I want to touch on real quick before I move to the next point is my Switch is going to get very little actual portable use, and if it does, the majority of the portable use will actually be around my home. There will be a few times when I go to conventions and stuff like that, I'll bring it to the hotel and stuff with me. But the majority of the Switch is going to be used. I'd say about 99% of my Switch will be used connected to my TV. So that's a moot point for me, but because of the nature of the Switch, I can understand why it's important to a lot of people. Sticking with the hardware for the moment, Nintendo have announced that the Switch has 32 gigabyte of internal memory. Now, this wasn't made public or anything during the actual announcement or during the presentation, but it was uploaded onto like a specs and details, the official specs and details website of the Nintendo Switch after the presentation. So an important thing to note, obviously, is that the Nintendo Switch has, like I said, has 32 gigabytes of internal memory, and it will be expandable with micro SD cards that support the micro SD XC format. Now, technically, SDXC will support up to, I believe it's 2 terabyte cards. Now, 512 gigabyte, 1 terabyte, and 2 terabyte cards are pretty rare and very expensive. So realistically, you're probably looking in around 128 gig or 256 gig as the higher echelon of cards that people will actually use. Having said that, 256 gig USB, 256 gig micro SD XC cards are still a little bit pricey for what they are essentially. So I do think that 32 gigabyte was not enough. I think that's a bit small, and that Nintendo are kind of passing the buck along onto their consumer for essentially, keeping the price reasonable, if you will. But then you have to factor in all these extra things and all as well, like extra controllers, Joy-Cons, the Pro Controller, memory cards, things like that. So realistically, you're going to be looking at between, if you want a higher end card for expanding your storage, you're probably going to be looking between a 128 gig, maybe a 200 or 256 gig micro SD XC card. One thing I will say that really I'll say piques my interest on this one is that because essentially everything above, I believe it's 64 gig, is a micro SD XC card, it's going to be curious to see if Nintendo artificially restrict that with some sort of limitation. Now, what I mean by that is technically, any SD XC card should work in any SD XC compatible device, because it's all one standard. That's the purpose of a standard. Now, some companies, depending on the device, for whatever reason, some companies will actually artificially limit that. So while technically you could probably put up to like a 1 terabyte card in it, some companies write support in their software, or limitations, I should say, in their software that restricts it down to maybe a 256. So if you put in a 512, you can't use it, or it won't recognize it, or whatever it is. It's going to be curious to see if the Switch does that, so that's why I'm not rushing out to buy a card just yet. It is 2 months till the Switch. Like I said, I'm getting one day one, but I'm probably gonna go with 128 gig, maybe a 256 gig. We'll see how it goes, but I'm definitely planning on buying a big enough card to go with it. So that's, one of the more important things, at least anyway, for that. The Nintendo have announced some of the extra, if you want to call it accessories, they're more so replacements and additional stuff, not including things like carry cases, blah blah blah, but they've announced that they will be selling Joy-Cons separately. You can buy a single Joy-Con for $50. Obviously, you get a choice if you're going to buy a left or a right one. You can buy a pair of Joy-Cons for, I've seen 2 different prices on the pair of Joy-Cons, because it depends. I think it's just retailers charging different prices. But I've seen them listed for the pair for €80 or $80, and the pair for $90. This also brings me to one other thing that I will say, is that the Nintendo Switch, when it was announced with 2 different versions and 2 different formats, if you will. Now, the only difference between these is the color of the Joy-Cons. Now, there's the standard gray ones that they've been showing off the entire time, which is going to be the ones I'm getting. Or they have these other ones, which come with a single blue left and a single red right Joy-Con. So that's for the more colorful, or whatever you want to call it, whimsical individual. There you go. This is another option for you. Or maybe if it's just for kids or something like that, they'll be more interested in that than getting a standard little gray one. They all come at the same price, so that's not too much of an issue. Here's where stuff gets a bit real dodgy. Now, we all know that the Nintendo Switch dock has no actual proper power boosting hardware in it. When you dock the Switch into it, because it's running on mains power, obviously it's like a laptop, for example, or some tablets and things like that. So that when you plug it in, because it's running on a steady, significant, constant power source, be it the mains, it switches away from power saver mode, so you get better power out of it. So the rumors are that because the Switch has a 720p screen, which is confirmed, by the way, you saw it in the previous one with the SD card, you could see below that it was a 720p screen. It's expected that the games will run in, say, maybe 720p, or possibly even a lower quality 720p, lower quality game settings, there you go, in 720p on the actual tablet, and maybe higher quality 1080p and higher quality visuals and 1080p while docked. It makes sense that when you plug it into the dock, it runs more powerful, like taking a laptop or a tablet out of battery mode and putting it into full power mode. So there's no actual proper hardware in there. Obviously, it has the 2 USB ports and a HDMI port, as well as the internal USB-C for connecting to the Switch and charging it. So that is a real kind of... That really puts it into perspective about the next thing I'm about to say. Nintendo were selling the Switch dock for $90 separately. Now, the cost of licensing a HDMI connector and the cost of factoring it to the board and getting a board that supports 2 USB ports and a USB-C port and a connector of some sort, it should not cost $90. This is a bit ridiculous if you ask me. Realistically, because there's no extra additional hardware in this and all of the stuff is basically handled generically through USB-C, this should cost maybe at extremely most $40. This kind of thing should be about $25 because it's essentially like a USB hub with a Nintendo brand on it. So I realize it has a unique function, but I still think that's a bit madness. And that brings me to the next one as well, before we move on to other aspects of the Switch. The Nintendo Pro controller, the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, is $70. That's a bit much. That's very excessive. Now, most people will say, "Oh, but a PS4 controller or an Xbox One controller is in around that kind of thing." Xbox One controllers and PS4 controllers are considerably more advanced technologically, or at least they are more advanced. Maybe not considerably, although the Xbox One is definitely up there with some of the refinements and features in it. So I think $70 for this is a bit much, especially can't English, when you consider the likes of the Wii U Pro controller. This is essentially a slightly more upgraded version of that. Now, the Wii U Pro controller I almost consider essential. It's basically the best way to play your Wii U, with the exception of games that required the touchpad, in the likes of, say, Tokyo Mirage Sessions or something like that, which absolutely wrecked my head that required that. I kind of liked the way it used it, but Jesus, that was annoying with the battery life on that thing. But it's really, really confusing that this is so expensive, because essentially it's just a basic controller with a proper layout and all, with probably maybe not even all of the extra features of the Joy-Cons. There's tons of extra features they crammed into the Joy-Cons that I'm not talking about in this video, because it's essentially par for the course, as you'd expect it. It's nothing exceptionally groundbreaking. It's the kind of stuff you'd expect. That's why I'm not really talking about them here. So the fact that the Pro controller is going for about $70 is really kind of confusing, and that's going to bring in some more trepidation on this next point, which we're going to talk about right now. So the Nintendo Switch is going to have an online game service, as you'd expect. All the way back to the DS, even the original DS had online gaming of some sort. Then you had obviously the DSi, the DS Lite, they all ran the same thing. The 2DS and the 3DS. You have even the Wii, even the GameCube had certain online game features. So the GameCube, the Wii, the Wii U, and now obviously the Switch, they're all going to have online features. Now, here's where it gets a bit strange. The Switch online gaming service is going to be a paid service. Now, this may not come as a surprise to many people, given the vast amount of success that Xbox Live Gold and PlayStation Plus has, but it's turning a lot of people off. I see a lot of negativity towards this. Now, to be honest, I'm just surprised that Nintendo haven't done it sooner, but it would have been nice to use that as a, hey, we're Nintendo, you play our awesome games online for no fee whatsoever. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. So, one of the big things is that this service is going to properly launch when the actual console launches, but it's going to be different. Now, what do I mean when I say it's going to be different? Is there's a couple of different ways of that this is going to be done, essentially. Now, this does not affect 2DS, 3DS, or Wii U at all. So if you play online with any of those platforms, don't worry about it, okay? This doesn't apply to you at all. So, first off, okay, it is a paid subscription service. There is no price on the actual service just yet. But there is a list of the differences between them. So if you are not there's no proper name for this. It's just like online game subscription, Nintendo Switch online game subscription service. I'm sure they'll probably come up with a better one for the moment. So even though it's going to launch on March 3rd with the Nintendo Switch, the online gameplay aspect of it, because you do require this to play games online, the online gameplay aspect will be free as a several-month trial up until fall 2017, or autumn 2017 if you live in the real world, because America, for some reason, like to call it fall. But anyway, the main differences between them is that the online gameplay is an exclusive feature to the paid one, not including the free trial, of course. There's an online lobby system and voice chat app going to be available for smartphones and things like that. Not sure if it's going to be available actually on the Switch itself, which was kind of unclear. I would imagine it will be on there, but they've also hinted at the app version for smart devices. This app is exclusive to service Nintendo online account service subscribers. So if you want to use the voice chat app or online lobby systems, you're going to be able to do it with that. It does not come as part of the non-subscriber bundle, and there's no mention of that particular feature being available in the free trial. The free trial essentially only extends to the online gameplay aspect of it. There's going to have a monthly game download system, which is akin to PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live Gold. The way they have worded this one is very poorly, because it leaves a bad impression the way it's worded. I could be understanding it wrong and interpreting it wrong, but it also does add in one or two extra nice features, which I'll get to in a second. So, because they have the monthly game download, here's the official blurb on what it says. Subscribers will get to download and play a Nintendo Entertainment System, I was going to say. Again, I'm not editing this video, so you get the idea. It's very long. I'm very tired. But anyway, let's try that one again. Subscribers will get to download and play a Nintendo Entertainment System, NES, or Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Super NES, as they call it, even though it's actually a SNES, and anyone who says different is wrong, including Nintendo. Game with additional, newly added online play. Now, here's the part that's questionable about it. For free for a month. So, does that mean on the first of every month, are you going to be able to download a game of their choice and only be able to play it that month, and then it changes next month? Or what's the deal? You know, it's very unclear. But I'm going to, because that's unclear and there's not really too much information about it, I do want to talk about something else that you may or may not have noticed in that little announcement that I kind of messed up. So they said, you'll be able to play a NES or SNES game with newly added online play. So that essentially means, the way I understand that, is that could be virtual console games with online gameplay compatibility. So I'm just going to spout off random games off the top of my head here. I'm talking, will I be able to download Secret of Mana on my Switch and play 3-player online with some of my friends through the internet? That's going to be epic if I can. Sunset Riders, Turtles in Time, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter. The list is endless. There's so many games that I would kill to be able to play online. Now, hopefully that all pans out. We'll see how it goes. If it's only going to be select games or first-party games. It all obviously depends on what games we actually get on the virtual console. Some might go horribly wrong, some might go exceptionally well, but it's Nintendo, and their history with the virtual console is shaky at best, so I'm not giving it a complete hype overhaul, and I'm not giving it a complete hype dismissal. I'm kind of in the middle about it. I just want to see how it goes. So, they've also said there'll be, for people who have a subscription to this service, there'll also be exclusive deals. Access to the eShop is for everyone. You can register and manage your friends and friends list, which is also available to everyone. You can share screenshots to social media, which is also available to everyone, not just the subscribers. And the access to Nintendo Switch Parental Controls app, which is also available to everyone, as you'd expect. One thing I actually kind of glossed over in the list just there that I wasn't initially planning on talking about, but I will just because it came up in this one. The fact that you'll be able to share screenshots to social media, there is a share button on the Nintendo Switch. At launch, it seems to only be, Nintendo have said that it only will share or capture and share screenshots at first, but in the future it will be able to support capturing and sharing video. So they've no estimate on when that is. For all we know, it might even make it in for a day one firmware patch. There's no proper idea yet. We'll see how it goes. So that's a little bit, that's pretty much all we know for the, what do we call this? The Nintendo Online Gaming Service announcement thingy. So that's all that we know on it so far anyway. There's a lot of divisiveness and concern over this for several reasons. One, it's an additional service. I know personally I pay for Xbox Live. I do not pay for PlayStation Plus. I don't need to pay for online games on PC. Now, a lot of people are worried that this is going to be a good thing. A lot of people are going to be worried it's a bad thing. For the simple reason is apparently the majority of online Wii U games, I know the Wii U is a bad example, but it is their most recent home console, so I am going to use it. Apparently a lot of those games are very dead online. Even high profile games such as Splatoon, Super Smash Bros. Wii U, and Mario Kart 8. Apparently a lot of them are all very dead online, and it can be very hard to get a game even during peak hours. So a lot of people are worried that not everyone will buy into this service, which means that these games can be even potentially even more dead online on the Nintendo Switch. Now, chances are the Nintendo Switch, this is just a guess, will most likely sell a lot better than the Wii U, but you get the idea. If only a certain portion of the people buy these games, some of them may not opt in for the online service for just one or two games, in which case it can hurt the player base. So there's rightful concern both ways over that. That's it from the hardware point of view. We're going to quickly touch on all the games and the game stuff with it, or the majority of them at least anyway. I am going to skip one or two of them that I just have absolutely no interest in whatsoever, but some of them will be first party, whatever. So the order that this is going to go in is I'm going to start with the games that I don't really care about, that I'm just putting in for the sake of it, and then it's going to transition through ones that I partially care about or I'm slightly interested in, and then ones that I'm just completely hyped for. So first off, there's Nintendo announcing their new first party kind of mini game pack, or whatever you want to call it. It's called 1-2-Switch. It's basically the Switch version of like Wii Sports, or the Switch version of WarioWare or something like that. In my opinion, it's not going to be good at all. I have no interest in it whatsoever. It's depending on who buys the Switch, if it's the whole, soccer mom thing, or, kids or people looking for party games, the 1-2-Switch might do it for you. It mostly focuses on playing against the other person. And what I mean when I say that is that playing against the other person directly, as in you're interacting with them, you're playing straight against them, you're not really focusing on the Switch console and the Switch screen or the TV that your Switch is connected to. You're more so worried about their movements and reactions rather than the actual content of what's going on the screen. So you get the idea. Personally, it doesn't do it for me. It's going to be available at launch, so I'm just throwing it in there just for the sake of it. That actually brings me to one other real quick thing that I want to mention, is that during this entire presentation, while Nintendo announced and showed off a lot of games, we still only have proper confirmation of 2 launch games. I'm sure there is going to be more, but we only have proper confirmation, like official stuff, on 2 actual launch day March 3rd games, which is really weird to me. I know, like I said, I know there is going to be a lot more, and they just for some reason decided not to show them. But you get the idea. So other than that, Nintendo have shown off a new IP that they're bringing out. It's essentially a spin between Wii Motion Plus kind of style gameplay, boxing, and a Wii Sports style kind of thing. Unfortunately, it's not a proper Super Punch-Out game, but it's called ARMS. So it's basically... I'll have a link to all these trailers in the description below, by the way, for the simple reason is I don't want to get copyright strikes on my videos. So, Nintendo have a huge history of taking down your videos if you used their stuff in them. So, it's basically, as you'd expect, it's kind of a punching game using the Joy-Cons. The characters have long, super extended, springy arms. It's bright, it's colorful, it's so Nintendo. It's going to be available at some point in spring. It's not pegged for launch as it is at the moment. No interest to me, but it seems like it might be a fun party game or just a fun game for certain people. Now, continuing on in the line of games that I personally don't care about, and in one of the most awkward presentations given in the history of awkward presentations, EA have announced that FIFA is going to be coming to Nintendo Switch in 2017. So we all know that EA have committed to one. There's never seemed to be anything more than, one major thing. They've always announced that, we have one major game in the works for Switch. So, FIFA is obviously one of the biggest and most popular series in the world. It's a football game. It's a real football game, not hand egg. So it's not soccer, it's actual football. So you get the idea. It's coming in 2017 to Nintendo Switch, and it was one of the most awkward presentations ever given. I kind of pity Patrick Sutherland from DICE or EA. Well, he used to be of DICE, but now he got promoted, so he's just a suit at EA. And he has a history of having bad promotions and bad presentations. Doesn't interest me whatsoever because I don't like EA and I don't play football games. I don't play FIFA. But if you're getting FIFA, if you're getting a Switch, if you like football, this is for you. And maybe EA will use this as a metric. Maybe they'll say, hey, 1 million people bought our FIFA out of 2 million consoles. Maybe it's worth developing games for the Switch. We'll see how it goes. There's so many questions about that. Now, this one doesn't do it for me at all. I was never interested in the first one, but it's a massive runaway success, so it's no surprise that Nintendo have announced Splatoon 2. Personally, I think they kind of missed out on a naming convention. They could have called it Splatoon, like SPLATWOON, maybe Splatoon, rather than Splatoon 2. Now, everyone in the run-up to the Nintendo Switch, there was all rumors and all of a Splatoon remaster or Splatoon port with maybe one or two extra things, online features, blah, blah, blah. But this is actually full-on Splatoon 2. It's going to be available this summer at some point. There's going to be new characters, new weapons, and new stages. Once again, I will have a link to all the trailers for these games in the description below, so you can check that out if you're interested in Splatoon and all. One thing I will say is that when the producer showed up on stage to announce this, he had these awesome looking paint guns, the Splatoon style paint guns, and they were cool. I'll just say that. As someone who doesn't like Splatoon, not so much I don't like it, it's just I'm not interested in it. It just they look cool. There's a bunch of new features and stuff included in it. You've got jetpacks that are powered by ink, dual weapons. You've got like super special weapons and stuff like that too. So you can check it out. It's going to be in the description below if that's going to be interesting for you. I expect Splatoon 2 to be a massive hit, considering that it's one of Nintendo's newest IPs, and it did gangbusters on the first one and was extremely well received, so I'm expecting to do more of that. Suda 5-1 came out in a real typical awkward Suda 5-1 announcement slash presentation, and if anyone's familiar with his games, you probably know who Travis Touchdown is, and in the case of No More Heroes. So he showed off a little bit of concept art. It's pretty much just one image. But yeah, he showed that, and he's basically announced that a new No More Heroes sequel is in development for Nintendo Switch. I was kind of all over the place with No More Heroes. I played the first one on the Wii. I don't think I played the second one. I don't remember. I don't even think I finished the first one. Mainly the actual aspects of it that focused on the Wii specifically was what kind of killed it for me. I remember kind of enjoying it though, so I may actually check that out. I'm not sure yet. There's a list of other, they showed off a sizzle reel also of kind of like just third-party games that they didn't really touch on, despite some of them being bigger names and stuff like that. But it's really weird. I'll quickly read off a list of them, so you'll probably find something in there that you can look into yourself more and more on. Some of the games they show off were Steep, which is the Ubisoft Winter Games kind of thing. NBA 2K18, which we all knew was already coming to the Switch, despite we're not confirming anything from 2K, but, Nintendo being Nintendo, just preventing them from doing it. The latest Just Dance game, chances are it's probably Just Dance 2017, they released a few months ago. I think 2017 was the most recent one. Either way, Just Dance, and probably Just Dance, for the next couple of years as well. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, which is a big deal because it's a pretty high profile game. Minecraft and Minecraft Story Mode. Minecraft, the original Minecraft that is, being probably very important for them to actually have and not get significantly later. Hell, I know I'll probably buy Minecraft just for the Switch as well. Super Bomberman R, Lego City Undercover Remastered or Port or whatever you want to call it. It's just officially called Lego City Undercover. I just threw that in there because it is a Wii U game. The latest farming simulator game will be coming. There's a new untitled Dragon Ball game that they also showed off that was not part of Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. There's the new Sonic 2017, which Sega previously announced when the Nintendo Switch was still called the NX. Sonic Mania, the new proper Sonic 2D game, which hopefully is going to be amazing. Fast RMX, Skylanders Imaginators, and Puyo Puyo Tetris, but to name a few. So there's a couple of other announcements that we're going to get to now in a second, but they were mostly just the stuff shown off in their sizzle reel. So let's move on to games that I'm like I said, I'm doing this in an order. It's starting with the games I don't really care about, then it's kind of progressing into the games that I do kind of have an interest in, and then it's going to progress onto the ones that I'm massively hyped for. So first off, in the series of ones that I'm kind of interested in, Square Enix have announced that I Am Setsuna is coming out on Nintendo Switch. They haven't said when it's going to come out, just that it is coming out to Nintendo Switch, not just in Japan. It's going to be coming out in the North American region and the EU region, which is pretty cool. So, sure, the game launched a while back digitally on PS Vita, physically on... No, did it launch physically on anything? No, it didn't. It launched digitally, I should say, on PC, PS4, and Vita. Now, Nintendo have announced that it's going... not Nintendo, Square Enix have announced that it's going to be coming out on Nintendo Switch at some point in the rest of the world, which is pretty cool. I personally haven't played it yet. I was kind of holding off for the longest time. Who knows, maybe picking it up on the Switch will be my finally time to actually play it. Now, if you're familiar with I Am Setsuna at all, you know it's styled after the old style, 8 and 16-bit Final Fantasy games, as well as a bit of Chrono Trigger in there. It's essentially an attempt to capture the old magic of the old school role-playing games when it comes to stuff like that versus all the new stuff. And that you'd have like 3D games and Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake, that Final Fantasy 15, that unfortunately they didn't announce for the Nintendo Switch. Now, moving on to the next semi-interesting game, there is going to be another Street Fighter game. And not just another Street Fighter game on the Nintendo Switch. There's going to be another Street Fighter 2 game on Nintendo Switch. This one in particular is called Ultra Street Fighter 2, or the entire complete name for it, because Capcom loves extended, super, hyper, ultra, mega death editions of Street Fighter. It's called Ultra Street Fighter 2 The Final Challengers. It's confirmed for the Nintendo Switch. I'd assume it will be a download-only game rather than a cart-based game. I could be wrong. But it's essentially an upgraded version of the previously released Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix Edition, which came out like maybe 6 or 7 years ago on the previous generation of consoles. But it adds in a couple of new characters and two specific characters, I should say. And it's going to introduce Evil Ryu, who is obviously usually it's considered Ryu to be the paragon of good and virtue and honor, and then you have Evil Ryu, who's going to be the complete opposite of that. And you've also got Violent Ken, who essentially has been brainwashed and is now hyper aggressive, even for his own standards. And it changes their look a little bit, it changes their moves and their movesets, so it's going to be curious to see how that goes. I did like Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix, and I was a big fan of, I think it was the first 3 original Street Fighter 2 games. The one where they added in like Fei Long and DJ and Cammy and all them, that was the final one I played. I didn't like when they started getting to the Alpha series or anything beyond that in the Street Fighter 2 series at least. So hopefully this is going to continue on, and I'll probably end up picking this one up. Square Enix announced another game, which is kind of weird. It's currently in what I assume is a working title development name, but which I'll have an affectionate name for, which I'll give now in a second. So they've announced it's what's called Project Octopath Traveler. It's a very Square Enix project name, or just a very Square Enix name in general, really, if you ask me. It plays in a similar style of it's kind of like, we'll call them high-end 16-bit or maybe 32-bit sprites on a pseudo 3D background. The art style for the actual characters, it seems a bit too low quality to work, if you ask me. But the graphical style and the lighting effects and shadows and things like that for the actual world and when traversing it are gorgeous. So we'll see how it goes. Even though it is still announced as Project Octopath Traveler, which could be a working project title or could be the actual name for some reason. I affectionately call this Bravely Treefault. That's just the way I call it. It probably won't be a Bravely Default game. I just think that's kind of funny. And when I saw, like, literally when I saw the first image of this game during the presentation last night, the first thing that popped into my mind, it was Bravely Default 3. So I just called it Bravely Treefault. So you get the idea. Now, moving on. So we're hitting the first line of games that I could legitimately say I'm interested in, simply because it would be possibly nice to have, but the game we all knew was coming for the Nintendo Switch because they've showed it off so much, but never confirmed it yet again, because probably Nintendo prevented them from it. But Skyrim is confirmed for Nintendo Switch, as you'd expect. I may buy it, I'm not sure. I haven't really got much time to play Skyrim Special Edition, which I've hopefully been going crazy into, so you get the idea. Most people will like the idea of playing Skyrim on the go, so I can understand why this would be a huge seller, because it's Skyrim. It's one of the arguably the biggest games of all time. Now, onto a game that I will almost certainly buy, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Edition. It's going to launch on Nintendo Switch. It will not be available at launch. It's going to launch in April, a month after release. And it's going to feature new characters, new power-ups, revamped battle modes, a couple of, I say new tracks, but the way they've worded the whole new track things is that they may only be part of the battle systems and things like that. They also include some of the new characters, including Splatoon Inklings, which, given Splatoon's runaway success, I'm not surprised. So you get the idea. Now, I did say it'll be available the month after Nintendo Switch's launch. Just to kind of clarify it up, obviously the Nintendo Switch is available on March 3rd, while Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I almost forgot the name for it there for a second, is going to be available at the end of April. So far, I've only found the European date, which is the 28th of April. So, you don't come trying to kill me when it's not out on the 1st of April. So you get the idea. So it's essentially an upgraded version of that. It comes with all the extra DLC and stuff that was put into Mario Kart 8 on Wii U, which is a fantastic game. I'm going to assume it has improved visuals. We all know it's got the new, I think it's King Boo character, as well as the Inklings and just a couple more extra power-ups, weapons, and like I said, the revamped battle mode. If you're a big fan of Mario Kart 8, chances are, if you're getting a Switch, you might as well get this. It will essentially be the definitive edition of the game, possibly with better visuals, which is nothing but a good thing, because Mario Kart 8 is gorgeous as it is on the Wii U. So, now, the big ones, the big... We'll call them the big two, if you will. Super Mario Odyssey. So Super Mario Odyssey is the next proper installment in the Super Mario series. What I mean when I say the next proper installment, I'm talking no games like Super Mario Bros, New Super Mario Bros, or New Super Luigi U, or Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. None of that stuff. This is pure, unadulterated 3D Mario. Again, there's a link in the description below to the actual trailer. I suggest you check it out. It's gonna be a badass game. I can't wait. It looks to it's actually taking place outside the Mushroom Kingdom. It starts in a more realistic thing, and then it transports Mario to different worlds and different locales. So it's not just to do that. Funny enough, when the trailer actually started, and it was panning over the city at the start, it actually made me think, this looks like a new Sonic Adventure game. Maybe they're showing off the new Sonic. And then as soon as Mario jumped up, it's like, oh, so it's Mario Adventure. Crossing it over with Super Mario and Sonic Adventure. So you get the idea. It looks great. There's a big focus on the new mechanic of Mario's hat, which seems to be some sort of either possessed hat or life form or entity or have a consciousness of its own. We'll see how it goes. Unfortunately, even though it is going to be a sandbox style game, which is a good thing, Super Mario Odyssey will not be available at launch. It will be available at the end of the year. They've called it Holiday 2017, which is most likely the Christmas release. So That's a bit unfortunate. I would have loved to have this game. It looks great. It looks so good, and I would have loved to have it as one of their killer apps on day one. So, you get the idea. Moving on this is not one of the big few, if you will, but it is a game that's big to me, and I would be very, very interested in it. Nintendo have confirmed via Monolith Software that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is currently in development. So this one seems to be a sequel, or maybe a spiritual sequel, if you will, whatever it is, or whatever way you want to look at it, to Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii and new 3DS, rather than Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U. It seems a lot of the stuff that they show off in the trailer, the styles, I won't even call them mechanics, but the implied mechanics, characters, character design, world design, etc. It's all more akin to Xenoblade Chronicles with Shulk on the Wii and the 3DS, rather than this type of stuff and style you see in Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U. They've only announced that it's currently in development. There's no even hinted release date or anything like that. It's going to be badass. I can't wait. If it's anything like the other two, well, if it's anything like Xenoblade Chronicles, it's definitely a good thing. Xenoblade Chronicles X was it wasn't perfect, is what I'm trying to say. Now, here's another one that absolutely blew me away, and I can't wait for it whatsoever. So, Atlas, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Shin Megami Tensei, have announced that they're bringing a new Shin Megami Tensei game to Nintendo Switch. Now, it's running on Unreal Engine 4, which, as we know, based on previous leaks and stuff like that, is the real Unreal Engine 4. It's not the cut down version, it's not the crappy mobile version, it's the actual full-on Unreal Engine 4. Which means it's probably going to have some badass visuals, even if they do allegedly run on medium. So here's what the cool thing about this is: it's most likely going to be an entirely new game. They haven't said it's going to be Shin Megami Tensei 5. They've just said it's going to be a new Shin Megami Tensei game on Nintendo Switch, running on Unreal Engine 4. It's in extremely early production. It's literally just the first announcement, but I can't wait. I'm a huge fan of everything in the SMT series, be it the main series, the spin-offs, whatever, especially the Persona series, to be honest. But I can't wait. This is going to be fantastic. I would be surprised if we saw this at all within this year or next year. I'm expecting this to come out in 2019. I'm okay waiting for that because it just looks so damn good. Now, here's the final big one that I'm going to put it out there as. Nintendo have confirmed that the biggest game they've been pushing for the Switch, which has currently been kind of ropey with possible leaks and details lately, that Zelda Breath of the Wild is going to be available on launch day worldwide. So there's no delays in Europe. There's no Wii U cancellation. That's another one I'm going to get to in a second. It's going to be available on March 3rd, day one of Nintendo Switch, in all regions. It is also going to be available on Wii U for the same day. Same regions, same everything, same Wii U. Same Wii U? That doesn't make any sense. But you get what I'm talking about anyway. So, they've also showed off a new trailer for Legend of Zelda. Now, previously, if you looked at any of the Breath of the Wild trailers, they were decent, they were good. Everyone always, in my opinion, blew them completely out of proportion. I am a huge Zelda fan, but I personally felt that, from all the ones that they previously showed, it's like, okay, some of them are showing the mechanics, some of them are showing the features, but overall, even the action and cinematic ones and all that they've showed so far were okay and decent at best. This new trailer, which I will have again linked in the description and I extremely urge you to check out, this new trailer is absolutely amazing. This blew my socks off. I was lying in bed watching the Nintendo Switch presentation on my phone. This got me to sit up. This was amazing. This is what a real Zelda trailer should look like. again, I'm not saying all the stuff that we've seen so far was bad. It was just, it was average, if you ask me. Average and decent at best. But this is a real Zelda trailer. This really highlights the fact that Breath of the Wild is going to be everything that they've been making it out to be, and probably more. Because they've hyped up Zelda for this Breath of the Wild for a good while now. They've talked so much about all how great and how much of an amazing scale and how much of a proper adventure with amazing story and all it's going to be, but they never showed anything off to back that up, with the exception of the scale of the world with the size of it. So until this trailer, holy crap, is all I can say. This trailer is amazing. It's one of the best trailers I've ever seen for a game. Not just for a Nintendo game, not just for a Zelda game, but just for a trailer for a game in general. It's one of the best I've seen. And I don't say that often, because usually trailers are, well, as I've said so far, you know, they're trailers. But this one, holy Nintendo, is all I can say. Good job. I can't wait. There's a limited edition of Breath of the Wild available. I think the Breath of the Wild Special Edition, Collector's Edition, whatever you want to call it, is exclusive to Switch. I haven't seen anywhere that it'll be available on Wii U, but I haven't seen anywhere saying that it will only be available on Switch. So I'm hopefully going to try to get my hands on one of those to kind of celebrate to go with it as well. We all know there are 3 amiibo, the 3 Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild amiibo that are going to be available on March 3rd, 2017. And they have been the Link Rider Edition, Link Archer Edition, and the big kind of pseudo rock mechanical Guardian. There's 2 new ones announced, which are the Bokoblin and Zelda. So they're obviously going to be launching on the same day for Breath of the Wild. Now, the new Zelda looks cool. She looks like a badass, is all I can say. They do feature her in the new trailer. I'm not going to spoil her too much in what's actually in the trailer, but chances are you possibly already have watched this. Holy crap, is all I can say. It's just, thinking about it again is just making me go back to think of how mind-blowing that trailer was. Oh my god, I have to go watch that trailer again as soon as I finish I finish recording this and this video is going to start processing. I'm going to watch that trailer like 4 more times. So I can't wait. It's going to be so good. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which, as I said, will be available on Wii U and Switch on March 3rd. Oh my god, I can't wait. I was always worried in the run-up and the fact that there was so few games teased for launch, and so far, even during the presentation, that there was only, up until Zelda, of course, they had only mentioned 1-2 Switch as a launch game. Now, chances are, you know, there's going to be probably like 15 launch games anyway. But the fact is that they only had talked about 1 or 2. I was always worried for the launch lineup. And even up until now, because of the trailers and all of Breath of the Wild, and the features they've showed off, the features they talked about, and the plot points, the story, and mechanics and all they'd shown off and talked about, I was always wondering if this could actually carry the console for a while. Because who knew how Mario was going to go, and now we all know that it's not coming out till Christmas. With the new thing that they're showing off with this new Zelda Breath of the Wild trailer, I do think that Breath of the Wild can carry this console for 6 months. I think that will carry the sales of this console for a while. Sure, after you buy it, after you buy it for Zelda and completely destroy Zelda in like a million hours, I do think you possibly, because of what we've seen, you may be, I won't say hurting on games, but you may be on the lower spectrum of stuff to do and stuff to play on it. It's to be expected at a new console's launch, to be honest. So I'm not going to hold it against them. But I kind of expected Zelda to fizzle out within a month. That is definitely not the case now. I think now anyone buying a Switch before Mario, so anytime any person buying a Switch before Christmas of 2017, I'd say 90% of those people are going to be buying it for Zelda as a main. Maybe the other 10% buying it as Splatoon for a main. I can't wait. The Switch, I was always really worried about the Switch. There's still a couple of things that I won't talk about right now that are that are still up in the air about the Switch. It could go a number of ways at this point. So far, it's been pretty promising. It's not perfect, but you get the idea. They're starting off on a decent base, not a perfect base, not the strongest base. The fact is, again, they only announced 2 launch day games. Obviously, I've said it 100 times, but there's going to be a million. There are going to be probably a dozen, if not more, games upon launch. But the fact is, at the moment, we only have 2 announced, confirmed launch games. So, I don't know. We'll see how it goes in the next couple of years during this generation and all. So, let me know in the comment section below what you think about the Switch in general. Are you getting one? I know I am. Can't wait. There's going to be a lot of stuff swirling around. What do you think of the pricing of accessories? The fact that you're going to have to pay to play online now. There's basically anything we talked about in this video. There are 1 or 2, obviously, decently important, depending on your opinion and your views on it. That features and things that I didn't talk about. Wow, talking for so long, it's making my brain die. But yeah, let me know anything Switch related in the comment section below, or Zelda related, or game related. What games are you hyped for? What games can you not wait for? I know we've already covered in this video what I'm dying for. Let me know all that in the comment section below. Additionally, real quick, just before I end the video, someone pointed out to me yesterday when they liked one of my videos and they subscribed, and they left me a comment that they were actually my 200th subscriber. I realized that 200 subscribers in the grand scheme of YouTube is absolutely pitiful, but the fact is that I never expected 200 people to like my content. I expected to come on and just be hated by many people, just because I don't always have the most popular opinions. But the fact is that for all the people out there, the 200 people that subscribe, the people who watch my content that aren't subscribed, the people who watch my content that are, just commenting and, leaving and never coming back, I appreciate every single comment, every single view, every single share, every single like, every single dislike. I appreciate it all. I want to thank you all so much, and I will continue to do this. And it's really weird because of how how YouTube do it. I do not monetize these videos. Sometimes they do get claimed by other people and the ads are put onto them, but I do not. I do this for fun. I do not make any money off this whatsoever. And yes, thank you very much for supporting that, essentially. So, let me know all that in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter. Details in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the rest of the videos in my channel. Now, it's time to go not lose my mind from recording for so long.